Hello, welcome back. Well, this segment of WPC 24 Extra is going to focus on the glide path topic of performance and its role in creating interconnected and agile procurement teams, driving top and bottom line financial impact. We're joined by an esteemed panel, of course, as you would expect. Tim Snow, CPO of Inmarsat, and Elena Parker, Chief Revenue Officer, SAP Intelligence Spend and Business Network. So we're really happy that you're with us. Thanks very much indeed. Tim, let's start with you and let's talk about initially your approach to elevating functional performance. What would you say are the key initiatives that need to be utilised?
Cool. So first of all, I'd say to deliver performance, you need to know what's expected of you. So I would say listening to what your stakeholders need you to do, really understanding what the company strategy is or the functional strategy is, understanding what your competitors are doing at any point in time, and indeed what's happening in the geopolitical macroeconomic situation. So having a really, really broad understanding of what is expected of you so you can set the performance standard. And you can communicate it, and you can get people behind it so they're excited about it and they know what's expected of them. That's the first thing. Converting that into some success measures so that people have goals, objectives, they know kind of how it's going to be tracked over time. We can reflect and see how we need to change to changing situations. You can hardwire some of that into people's remuneration. So their bonuses, for example, and other kind of more soft things. And then finally, train, develop, inspire, coach, mentor people so that they understand to deliver what the business needs and what the performance standards are. They need to kind of change and adapt their kind of approaches and skills and invest the time, effort, money, other people from an external, internal perspective so that they continue to learn and grow so that they can achieve what's expected. That's
fantastic stuff. Elena's nodding through all of that, so I can take that there's agreement there, Elena. But performance means different things to different people, doesn't it? What would you consider to be procurement excellence, if we can map it out like that?
Procurement excellence is a big word, and indeed you first need to identify what are the performance KPIs, what are you going to measure. And when we look at the procurement function, it is a function that has evolved significantly. I always tend to say procurement used to be kind of in the background, cost was the primary driver, but it's moved to the front office because, sure, cost is there to remain. We are the guardians of the cost and we have a big responsibility to manage that responsibly for our organization, but there's much more to that. And let me come to those elements that have really specifically with COVID, the geopolitical tensions. I mean, every week you read the newspaper, there is yet another supply chain disruption. So what has changed? The first example for me is around supply chain resiliency, because performance is also making sure you get the right parts to the right plant, to the right production, so ultimately you can deliver the goods or services also to your customers. So working with your suppliers on relationships, managing your supply chain and building that supply chain resilience, which, let's be frank, by now is in almost every corporate report, is absolutely essential to keep your business running. And you've said earlier, not just to the bottom line, but honestly, that's the top line direct influence. And that, of course, not at any cost. So you have to work on your supplier relationships, but also you have to be, as a company, the buyer of choice, because the bargaining power between suppliers and buyers has changed. So that is equally a performance metric. Can you, at the time when you need something, source that particular good or service from your supplier to deliver? Sustainability is a big buzzword, but it is reality in procurement. 75% of Scope 3 emission is in your supply chain. So honestly, if you want to make a difference as a company in your supply chain, sure, you look within your four walls, but the 75% is outside. So how are you going to put performance metrics into place? First of all, with your supplier base on the typical ESG metrics, how are you going to measure that? How are you going to track that? How do you set then those KPIs where you want to go to move the bottom line for your company, because every company has commitments on that agenda. So those are just some examples how multifaceted the performance within procurement has changed to, yes, cost, but sustainability, managing a resilient supply chain, managing supplier relationships, and ultimately then the collaboration element so that you truly are the buyer of choice.
Amazing. Thank you, Elena. A bit of future gazing from you both now. Looking ahead, 2030, I'm going to ask you to imagine that we've sped forward a few years. How do you feel, Tim, that the industry would have changed, and how will you continue to deliver value to your customers?
So I think the industry will continue to build on the things that we have started but haven't finished. You mentioned sustainability there. We've started the journey, but we haven't got a massive handle on it, and we have amazing opportunity to change things. So I think there's a lot of those building blocks that we need to actually see through, and also be careful we don't get lost on the latest fad or new thing, the shiny new thing that could distract us from that. That's the first thing. Second thing, I think we'll have lots more access to information through the new technologies that are coming up, and not just us. Our suppliers will have a lot more access to information as well and be well prepared. So we're going to have to get more mature in the way that we potentially negotiate things and deliver things. And then I think the expectations from our leadership will get greater. So I think we have a reputation of fixing things at the moment: supply chain problems, contractual problems, risk kind of mitigations. That is the start of a commercial mindset, or maybe an established commercial mindset now, that we can evolve into other things across the business. So why do we do things in certain ways? How much does that cost the company? Could we outsource it? Could we insource it? Organizational structure. There's lots of opportunity once we, on the assumption we stay confident and our stakeholders believe in us to get those kind of basic things right.
Predicting the future's hard, isn't it, Elena? So which areas do you think are going to boom? Which will go by the wayside?
So areas that will boom in my mind, and we've already seen those times, and I think it's going to excel further, is the topic around risk management. It's going to remain relevant, right? Chief procurement officers are also the chief risk officers, because the world is changing faster around us. You need to be aware, and you need to be on top of that, because technology and what you've just said, we will have access to more data. Gen AI will transform how we can absorb information, how we can interact with information, and how we can derive actionable results and outcomes from that. So actually you're expected not to just react to a risk in the future, but you're expected to anticipate and have done the homework to be able to mitigate that in the best possible way. You know, nobody can afford a second supply chain issue like we've seen in COVID, for example, with some companies' production sites standing still. I do believe that, again, innovation is something that we will be seeing much more of, how we leverage our suppliers to drive innovation for our organizations. They're a fantastic pool of new ideas, and considering we have end-tier supply chains, this is potentially somewhat an untapped source to take it from a really strategic point of view, right? Where you bring I see some of my customers who are at the forefront of that already, bringing their big and small suppliers together with the business stakeholders, because procurement is in the middle between the supplier and then the relevant business stakeholders, to come up with new ideas, to drive innovation. And out of that innovation, you influence directly the future of your company, the top line of your company, what new products and services you can actually take to market if you tap into that pool. I think with visibility, the cost topic will become something that is more or less taken for granted, because once we've sorted our data, and a lot of companies are investing into that, you can spend less resources on the cost management, because technology and the better awareness across the suppliers and the buyers basically will level the field a little bit, right? Once we all know what the payment terms are between the two parties, we can cut to the chase. So that is definitely a topic that technology can help maybe focus a little bit less time. It will still be important, but you'll have it at the fingerprints, the finger point there.
And I think there's one other thing I just thought of, is I think we'll need to get comfortable with lots of people knowing lots of information. And we're not going to hold it to ourselves. You can't read the contract, we're contractual experts. You can't work out the risk, we're the risk experts. The information's going to be there. ChatGPT within security firewalls in your company will give everyone access to stuff. So you need to hone your skills, sharpen your skills, so you keep providing commercial value, insight, thought-provoking conversation in your company, and that should be okay. So as a function, we're going to have to kind of evolve to that, I think.
Yeah. And because some of the collaboration between the suppliers will actually move much more to machine, all these invoicing topics where we still spend quite some manual hours as well, this is going to be digitized as we move along and standardize things, standardize data within different industries as well. UNCR is a good example of that, how some companies use across industries that we all talk about the same. So that should definitely become less. And again, free up time to do the more value-added stuff, to build the relationships and make a difference towards your company's bottom line.
That's awesome. Elena, Tim, thank you very much for sharing your huge expertise. I hope you enjoyed the rest of the Congress and enjoy some lunch.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.